Hey, Dirty Birdies. I'm Jake Barton, creator of the history storytelling podcast called Historium, and you're listening to The Dirty Bits on the Orbital Jigsaw Network.
Hi, I'm Tawny Plattis, and you're listening to Dirty Bits, the show where a voiceover artist casually and sometimes comedically retells the sexy, scandalous, and salacious stories your history teacher probably left out. Thank you for joining us for not only the series finale of Controversial Characters, but the Season 1 finale of the show. We'll touch on that a bit more in our after show. If you're a love bug, as we call our listeners, or a dirty birdie, as we call our Patreon supporters, stay tuned after this episode for listener shoutouts, special insider info, and podcast recommendations from the Dirty Bits newsroom you won't want to miss. Genghis Khan was the founder of what is the largest contiguous empire in history after his death. He practiced meritocracy, was religiously tolerant, and unified the nomadic tribes of Northeast Asia. He's controversial because he's also notorious for Dothraki-like cruelty, is considered by many to be a ruler who was fond of genocide, and may be the original ancestor to 0.5% of the entire world population. No joke, 8% of men living in what used to be the Mongol Empire carry nearly identical Y chromosomes. That's about 16 million men in Mongolia who can trace their lineage back to what appears to be a single horny and rapey granddaddy who lived around 1,000 years ago. Genghis Khan's birth name was Temujin, which was super badass because it meant of iron.
They basically gave their kid a name that translates to Smith in English, like blacksmith.
No, like Agent Smith in The Matrix. He was super scary and cool.
You're comparing Genghis Khan to Agent Smith?
Yeah. So anyway, Agent Smith was born in 1162-ish in modern-day northern Mongolia, near the current capital, Ulaanbaatar. He was one of 7 children in the 12th century version of the Von Trapp family. There isn't a ton of information about what went down in his early years, kind of like Jesus. The stories that have survived are often a clusterfuck of contradictory nonsense, which means they're positively delightful to gab about. So there's this book called The Secret History of the Mongols, and it's the oldest surviving written work in the Mongolian language. It says that Agent Genghis Khan Smith was born holding a blood clot with an iron-tight grip. Iron. See what I did there? It was a sign in traditional Mongolian culture that the baby would become a great leader. Khan had your typical nomadic upbringing, which meant it was hard as hell. They were constantly moving, and during the apocalyptic winters, when food was scarce, they'd drink the blood of their horses. So when Temujin's at the ripe old age of 9, his dad is like, so there's this super rad chick named Borte from the Kongarid tribe. You're going to live with her and her family until you're a man in 3 years. Because again, as we've seen, getting married before you're 30 is a great idea. Genghis Khan's dad drops him off at his fiancée's house, and then his dad heads home. But he runs into the Tatars, and he's like, oh, hey guys, what's up? What are you guys all up to? And the Tatars are like, oh, not much, just coming back with In-N-Out for lunch. We were all way too exhausted to cook. Did you want a double-double and some animal fries? Our treat, don't even worry about it. But those mofos poisoned him. And Genghis Khan hears about these longtime asshole enemies that killed his dad. And he goes back home and he's like, oh, wow, that's a major bummer. So I'm chief now, right? And his tribe says, no, we don't think so. Actually, you and your family can't chill with us anymore. We're going to go ahead, pack it up, and leave you here without any protection or food. Good luck! That resulted in his family doing their best to survive in extreme poverty. On ox carcasses, wild fruit, and other small animals Genghis Khan and his brother would hunt. To add to the stress, Khan's older half-brother was like, okay, I'm the oldest, so y'all need to respect me and my authority. I'm also going to marry your mom, who's my stepmom and totally not related to me, so it's fine. Genghis Khan and his brother Khazar responded with, oh yeah? Well, here's a knife to the ribs, bitch. Then there's this other story from his youth that he tells about this time that another tribe captured him instead of killing him. They enslaved him, made him wear a wooden collar around his neck, and one night when everyone was eating, Genghis Khan noticed the guy who was guarding him was this total dork. So he goes, Hey, guard guy, come here. I want to tell you a secret. Closer. Even closer. Closer still. And he goes, whap! Hitting the guard over the head with his wooden collar and then booking it out of there like a bat out of hell. The tribe that had captured him searched for him all night. The man found Khan, and he was like, I'm not even mad. I'm just impressed. And he helped him escape at the risk of his very own life. Khan's Jason-born impression earns him a reputation. And a couple other tribes are like, dude, we should totally make a super group together. And this is a big deal, because at the time, none of the tribes in Mongolia were united. Genghis Khan's world was filled with raids, corruptions, war, and epic vengeance battles. Genghis Khan's mom taught him that he needed a strong alliance if he wanted to create a stable society. And that's where arranged marriages came into play. So Khan ends up going through with his marriage to Borte because he respected the shit out of his mom and knew she was giving him good advice. He was 16 when they wed and created a new alliance between their tribes. But right after the wedding, this other tribe called the Merkits kidnapped Borte, and they gave her to some other guy as a wife. And Genghis Khan's like, not today, Satan. And he rescued her with the help of his friend Jamuka. 9 months later, Borte gave birth to a son she named Joki. And Borte goes up to Khan and she's like, honestly, I'm not sure if he's yours or not, because I was kidnapped and repeatedly raped. And Genghis Khan goes, oh my God, I'm not even worried about it, babe. He's my son, and you're going to be my only empress. I'm totes going to take a few hundred other women as my wives, but you're my only empress. Borte popped out 3 more boys, while Genghis Khan married 500 more women and consorts he picked up while out conquering. Many were the daughters of foreign kings, and the kings were like, I'm sorry, honey, we have to give you to the Mongols because there's no way in hell I'm about to have molten silver poured into my eyes and ears. This resulted in Khan having a giant harem with a metric grip of children with these women. But only Borte's sons were eligible as heirs to his empire. There was this one Tatar woman named Yishu he married when he conquered her people, and she worked her way up to becoming almost as beloved as Borte, along with a few other Mongolian wives. But Borte would always be his only empress and his bestie. So this is all going down in the early 13th century. The Central Asian Plateau right above the north of China was divided into a bunch of different tribes that were mostly pretty pissy with each other. Genghis Khan became Genghis Khan by uniting most of them into one giant empire. Khan was special in the sense that he ran his government as a meritocracy as opposed to inheritance. So whoever was best for the job got the job. And if you were doing good work, you got a promotion. People loved it, and his method attracted a wide demographic of followers, including the lower class. After he rescued Borte from the guys that kidnapped her, a shaman goes, the eternal blue sky has set aside the world for Temujin. That was his birth name, if you remember. Go forth and be powerful. Temujin officially became Genghis Khan, king of the Mongols, in 1186. This all makes his buddy Jamuka, who had helped him rescue his wife, super insecure. So he attacks Genghis Khan in 1187 with 30,000 of his closest friends. And Khan rounds up everyone to defend themselves, but he's initially defeated. He ends up staying in power, though, because Jamuka hit Mad King Ares levels of crazy when he boiled 70 young men alive in giant cauldrons. Historically, things are pretty quiet for the next 10 years up until Khan starts launching the Mongol invasions that resulted in him conquering just about all of Eurasia. And he does this by just going around and tearing shit up. His invasions consisted of what many consider genocide, as he was responsible for enormous massacres of civilians. Khan and his men wreaked havoc on just about everyone who put up any resistance to being conquered. They would kill or enslave the men and capture the women to be divvied up amongst themselves. It's said that he'd roll up to a city and ask, "Who's the hottest bitch up in this place?" And they'd be like, "It's Brittany! She's tan and blonde, please for the love of God, leave me alone." And Khan would say, "I will find her." Or he'd just have his generals do it. Commander Nayaga once brought a woman named Kalun Khatun to Genghis Khan. She looked at the commander and asked, "What, do you like guys or something? Because, I mean, look at me. Why not keep me for yourself?" And he responded with, "When I find beautiful women and virgins, I say to myself, these are the possessions of my Khan. If I ever thought of anything else, then put me to death." Khan really got his jollies from sleeping with the wives and daughters of the leaders of his enemies. Mongolian army commanders at the time thought he had otherworldly sexual powers because he'd sleep with so many women every night. These guys traveled with battering rams, mobile shields pushed on 4 wheels, these things that chucked bombs and scaling ladders. He also did something unprecedented by growing his army with the prisoners he captured and making them be his soldiers or slave labor. In 1215, a year after he and his men had absolutely demolished Beijing, an ambassador to the city said that the soil was still greasy because of the human fat. There were bones everywhere, and people from his own group had died because of exposure to all these diseased, rotting bodies. They would lay siege to cities that were so horrific that the people living there would have to resort to cannibalism to survive. The Mongolians' own feasts became legendary. Khan and his friends would eat barely cooked horse meat while women they had captured were brought out for them to inspect. Khan himself would choose the highest-ranking women, and he was particularly drawn to women with beautiful voices, red lips, small noses, round hips, and long Disney princess hair. He also had a ranking system, and if he found a girl under a particular number, he'd pass her on to one of his soldiers. This one time, everyone was having a friendly back and forth about what the best part of life was. Most of the guys were like, "Oh, dude, falconry, hands down, best part of life. Genghis Khan, you know what we're talking about. You have 800 falcons. Best thing ever, right?" And like a fucking creep, Khan says, "The greatest pleasure is to vanquish your enemies and chase them before you, to rob them of their wealth and see those dear to them bathed in tears, to ride their horses and clasp to your bosom their wives and daughters." When they get to southern Russia, Khan is like, "Hey, see that Russian army that's 4 times our size? We're gonna kill him." And his guys are like, "Are you sure about that, boss?" And he says in Patrick Warburton's voice, "Oh, I'm sure." They destroyed the Russian army, and the surviving leaders surrendered to him under the condition no blood would be shed. Genghis Khan goes, "Yeah, for sure, no blood shed." Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So he ties the captives up, lays them flat, and puts a heavy wooden platform on top of them. The Mongol commanders then put all this food on top of that platform, and they start going to town. They pick which women they're going to take back to the yurt, like, "Okay, I'll take Janet." "I said I'll take Janet!" Oh my God, I can't hear anything over the screams of these guys underneath this table as they're being crushed and or suffocated. "I said Janet, damn it!" Russian historian George Vernadsky says, the plundering of enemy territories could begin only when Genghis Khan or one of his generals gave permission. Once it had started, the commander and the common soldier had equal rights, except that beautiful young women had to be handed over to Genghis Khan. Today, researchers think that Genghis Khan, in addition to approximately 10 other men, left their genetic stamp on millions of men. A 2003 paper by Chris Tyler Smith, an evolutionary geneticist, said that 8% of men in 16 various populations throughout Asia and 0.5% of men worldwide share almost the exact same Y chromosome sequence. The lineage is believed to have begun about 1,000 years ago in Mongolia. But despite all of his philandering and being held responsible for brutally murdering 40 million people, he's also known for being a generous leader who didn't care about becoming luxuriously wealthy. He was interested in culture, literacy, and law. He even brought Chinese medicine back to his people. He was religiously tolerant and didn't go after anyone based on their religious beliefs. Under his reign, girls were educated alongside boys. He consulted his mother and wife in regards to government. Women were active in society and politics, and he recognized the whole sexual purity bit as being utter bullshit. Genghis Khan died in 1227, after defeating the Western Xia for unknown reasons. Some say he fell from his horse because he was old and tired. Some say he was killed by his enemies, the Tangut. But my favorite and most unlikely theory was that it was actually a Tangut princess who did him in. To prevent her rape and avenge her slain people, she cut off his thingamabob with a knife she had hidden, and Khan never recovered. Today, he is buried in an unmarked grave somewhere in Mongolia. His sons and heirs took over the family business of empiring. David Morgan, a historian at the University of Wisconsin who specializes in Mongol history, says that Khan's eldest had 40 sons himself, and he may have had a very large harem. Ata Malik Juvani, who wrote a treatise on the Mongols in 1260, said, "Of the issue of the race and lineage of Genghis Khan, there are now living in the comfort of wealth and affluence more than 20,000. More than this, I will not say, lest the readers of this history should accuse the writer of exaggeration and hyperbole, and ask how from the loins of one man there could spring in so short a time so great a progeny." Thanks for listening. As always, we love our community of listeners and appreciate any comments, corrections, suggestions, or ideas you have for us. Feel free to contact us by sending an email to tawny@tawnyvoice.com or just hitting us up on social media. See you next Tuesday. The following may make your head pop unless you're a Dirty Bits podcast fan that can differentiate between a love bug and a dirty birdie. Listener discretion advised. Welcome to the Dirty Bits newsroom, the after show that updates our hardcore fans that we love the most on all of the fun and exciting upcoming features on the show. You may know that this episode of the Dirty Bits podcast wraps up Season 1. We're so grateful you're a part of such a beautiful community with a passion for learning about the often forgotten details of history. We want to say thank you. You are our number one priority. The Dirty Bits doesn't exist without you. It can't exist without you and all of your incredible support. So we'd like to extend a special thank you to some of our biggest fans: Stacy B., Michelle G., Samantha H., Hannah L., Rebecca L., Mary Virginia, Sarah C., Sarah F., Mindy Swan C., Lindy B., Melissa N., Kelly Eberly, Matt N., Phil R., Stephanie S., Donna M., Matt J., and Joseph J. H. Thank you for bringing such an enormous amount of sunshine to the Love Bug Brigade. You are all the absolute best. I started the Dirty Bits podcast on May 8th, 2017. Because I strongly believe that learning the personal and intimate details about historical figures gives us a deeper understanding of the motivation behind the actions that helped shape society for generations, while giving humanity to what can sometimes seem like unrelatable historic figures. These past 6 months have been a dream for George and me. We began this year with our goal being to grow our careers as a voiceover actor, a business and marketing coach, and an audio editor. Well, we've been talking. And George and I want to bring the show to you full-time. Our vision would consist of an animated show that accompanies hour-long episodes every week. We would love to do a live, interactive show once a week in addition to our regular episodes. We want to go on tour. We want to give away more and cooler merchandise. You can help us make this a reality by simply sharing our show with your friends. Posting on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat to let others know about your favorite naughty history podcast helps us out oodles. Leaving reviews on iTunes and choosing Dirty Bits merchandise for holiday gifts from our store at orbitaljigsaw.com, as well as becoming a Dirty Birdie on patreon.com/dirtybits are also all incredibly appreciated ways you can help bring so much more to the show. Before launching Season 2, we'll be releasing a very special Halloween episode, and then we'll be taking a brief break to focus on voice acting and coaching. During this time, in between seasons, our Dirty Birdies on Patreon can still enjoy new episodes and exclusive content from the show. If you're interested in breaking into voiceover, in need of audio editing, or business, marketing, and branding consultations, we have specials available exclusively for our listeners. Simply shoot us a message on social media or email us at tawny@tawnyvoice.com, mentioning our Love Bug special. Thank you again so much for hanging out with us these past 6 months, Love Bug. We'll see you for Season 2 soon.